Welcome to the Heartbreak Chronicles, where every story is a raw reflection of life. Hit that subscribe button to stay tuned, give us a like to show your support, and share this episode with your friends. Don't forget to leave a comment and let us know what you think. Now, let's dive into today's story. Nathan stood in his gallery, caressing the oil painting he had just finished. Sunlight pours in through the floor-to-ceiling windows, gilding the paintings with a golden glow. He smiled, pleased with his work. Nathan is a successful artist with his own gallery, living in a hilltop home and raising two wonderful children with his wife, Eliza. Eliza is a talented designer who works as a senior designer at a renowned design firm. She has a busy schedule and often works late into the night. Nathan understands the pressure of his wife's job and always supports her quietly. They were rich and happy, at least on the surface. However, life is not always as good as it seems. That night, Nathan sat in his office at the gallery, waiting for Eliza to call. The clock hand was pointing to 9 o'clock, and she still hadn't returned home. Nathan picked up his cell phone and dialed Eliza's number. "Honey, are you still working late?" Nathan asked softly. Eliza's slightly flustered voice came through on the other end of the line. "Yes, dear. There's an important project that needs to be finished tonight. Don't wait for me. You rest first." Nathan frowned. He heard the faint sound of music and the clamor of people on the other end of the line. It's not like an office environment. "Are you sure you're in the office?" "I heard music." Nathan asked tentatively. Eliza quickly replied, "Oh, that was a coworker playing music. You know, sometimes we need some background music to refresh us." Nathan forced a smile. "Well, don't get too tired. I love you. I love you too. Good night." Eliza hung up hastily. A pang of unease welled up inside Nathan as he hung up the phone. He's been married to Eliza for years. He knows her too well. There was a hint of nervousness in her tone, which was unlike her usual self. Nathan took a deep breath, trying to calm his inner doubts. Maybe it really was just a stressful job, he consoled himself. However, intuition tells Nathan that things aren't simple. He hesitated for a moment, but eventually opened the location app on his phone. It was something they installed on each other for security purposes, and normally Nathan never checked Eliza's location. But tonight he felt the need to make sure. Nathan's heart sank hard when the locator results showed up. Eliza is not at her business, but at a fancy art gallery downtown. Nathan clenched his fists and tried to control his emotions. He knew that the pavilion often hosted private receptions, a place for the rich and famous to socialize. Nathan closed his eyes and took a deep breath. He didn't want to believe that his wife would cheat on him, but the evidence in front of him made it impossible for him to fool himself. He decided to take a trip to that pavilion himself and find out what was going on. The drive to the pavilion was filled with conflict and pain for Nathan. He loved Eliza and believed she was a good wife and mother. But if she did betray him, how would he face it? Nathan gripped the steering wheel so tightly that his knuckles were white with exertion. His thoughts raged like a tidal wave. Maybe it was just a misunderstanding. Maybe Eliza was really just working. But why lie? Why are you hiding it? When Nathan arrived at the entrance to the pavilion, his heart was racing and his palms were sweaty. He took a deep breath and quietly walked into the pavilion. The opulent hall was filled with well-dressed guests raising champagne and laughing. Nathan felt out of place, but his eyes eagerly searched the crowd for Eliza. Suddenly, Nathan sees Eliza. Eliza stood in front of a huge abstract painting, elegantly dressed in a black evening gown. Nathan's heart skipped a beat, and even in moments like this, he was still proud of his wife's beauty. But the next second, he saw Marcus Thompson standing next to Eliza. Marcus is leaning over to whisper something in Eliza's ear, his hand resting lightly on Eliza's rear end. Eliza smiled, a sparkle in her eyes that Nathan had never seen before. It was one of pleasure, excitement, even love. Nathan felt a wave of vertigo. His world seemed to be spinning, and a buzzing murmur filled his ears. He wanted to rush up and question, to rant and rave, to pull Marcus away from Eliza. But it was as if his feet were nailed to the ground and he couldn't move. Just then, Marcus makes a move that completely shatters Nathan's last hope. He leaned forward and placed a soft kiss on Eliza's lips. What broke Nathan's heart even more was that instead of ducking away, Eliza closed her eyes slightly, seemingly enjoying the stolen intimacy. Nathan felt a sharp chest pain, as if someone had stabbed him through the heart with a sharp knife. His mind went blank, leaving him with nothing but an endless sense of pain and betrayal. He wanted to cry, but he couldn't shed a tear. He wanted to laugh, but he felt an overwhelming sense of irony. In this moment, Nathan experienced a storm of emotions. Anger erupted like a volcano. He wanted to rush up and punch Marcus. Sadness flooded him like a tide. More than 10 years of good memories in this moment into nothing. Confusion hovered in his mind. He did not understand what he did wrong, why Eliza betrayed him. Fear creeps in. He is afraid of losing the family, afraid of the children. Fear creeps in. He is afraid of losing the family, afraid that the children will be hurt. But eventually, a strange calm enveloped Nathan. He realized that there had been a crack in their marriage for a long time, but he had just chosen to ignore it. Maybe Eliza's betrayal was just the last straw in this broken marriage. Nathan quietly left the pavilion without alerting Eliza or Marcus. He needs time to think, time alone to sort out his emotions. As he sat back in his car, he looked at his reflection and realized that the confident, happy man he once was no longer there. In its place was a tired, wounded, confused soul. On the way home, Nathan's mind kept replaying what he had just seen. He remembered their first date, the tears in Eliza's eyes when she proposed, and the happy moment when their child was born. These fond memories are now so ironic. Nathan doesn't know how to face this harsh truth. He loves Eliza, loves their child, and doesn't want to break up the family. But he couldn't stand the feeling of being lied to and betrayed. Should he have just questioned Eliza? Or give her a chance to come clean? Is there any chance of saving their marriage? Or is it already too late? Stray thoughts tumbled through his mind until late at night. When Eliza gets home, Nathan is still sitting in the dark, waiting for an explanation he may never get. When Eliza got home, Nathan was still sitting in the dark. "Nathan, why are you still up?" Eliza asked in surprise. Nathan looked up, his gaze pained and questioning. "Where have you been, Eliza?" Eliza froze for a moment, then composed herself. "Didn't I tell you? I'm working late." "Working late at the art gallery?" Nathan said coldly. Eliza's face turned instantly pale. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Nathan stood up and walked over to Eliza. "Tell me the truth, Eliza. What's your relationship with Marcus Thompson?" A flash of panic flashed in Eliza's eyes, but she quickly regained her composure. "He's just my client, Nathan. We're talking about an important project tonight." "At an art gallery? In a tuxedo?" There was sarcasm in Nathan's voice. Eliza was silent. She knew her lies had been exposed. Nathan took a deep breath and tried to control his emotions. "We've been married for so many years, Eliza. I thought there were no secrets between us. But right now, I don't even know if I should believe everything you say." Eliza's eyes filled with tears. "Nathan, No need to explain." Nathan interrupted her. "I need time to think it over." With that, Nathan turned and went upstairs, locking himself in his study. He sat in front of the window, staring at the stars in the distance, feeling more alone and lost than ever before. He didn't know what the future held, but he knew that starting tonight, their marriage would never be the same. Nathan and Eliza's family is thrown into turmoil after the night that revealed the truth. There was tension and unease in the air, like the calm before a storm. Nathan knew that they needed to talk, but he wasn't sure he was ready to face the truth. Finally, on the third night after the truth is revealed, Nathan gets up the courage and decides to have a long talk with Eliza. The children were sent to their grandparents' home, leaving the two of them to face the storm of this marriage alone. "Why, Eliza," said Nathan, his voice low and husky, "is our marriage so worthless to you?" Eliza sat at the other end of the couch, hands clasped, eyes flashing. She took a deep breath as if organizing her words. "Nathan, it's not what you think. I don't know how things got to this point. Then you tell me what the hell is going on?" Nathan's tone was filled with sarcasm and pain. A flicker of guilt flashed in Eliza's eyes, but then became firm. "Nathan, Have you ever wondered why I did what I did? Our marriage has been in trouble for a long time. You've just been choosing to turn a blind eye." Nathan froze. He didn't expect Eliza to fight back like that. "What do you mean? What happened to our marriage? You really don't know?" Eliza's voice began to tremble. "All these years, you've always been immersed in your art world, giving all your passion to your paintings. And what about me? I'm like a transparent person. How long has it been since you really cared about my feelings?" Nathan opened his mouth to retort, but it stuck in his throat. He thinks back over the last few years of his life and suddenly realizes that he did ignore Eliza's feelings. Eliza continued, "I'm not excusing myself. I know what I did was wrong. Betrayal is unforgivable. But Nathan, our marriage has long been an empty shell. I felt alone and neglected. Marcus, he made me feel valued and wanted." Nathan felt a sharp pang of heartache, both because of Eliza's words and because of his own negligence. But anger and a sense of betrayal quickly took over. "So that's why you betrayed me? Because I'm busy working? Because I didn't care for you as much as you expected?" "Eliza, if you have these feelings, why don't you just communicate them to me? Why did you choose to cheat?" "I tried, Nathan," said Eliza, her voice rising. "I tried a million times, but every time you were perfunctory. You always say, okay, we'll talk about it some other time, but that some other time never comes. In the end, I gave up." The room fell into silence, both of them lost in their own thoughts. Nathan realizes that their marital problems are far more complicated than he thought. Yes, Eliza's betrayal was unforgivable, but he wasn't completely innocent. Finally, Nathan broke the silence. "Eliza, I admit I was negligent, but that doesn't excuse your betrayal. There may have been problems in our marriage, but we could have worked them out together. Now, it's all too late now." Eliza lowered her head, tears slipping down her face. "I know. I'm sorry, Nathan. I'm really sorry." Nathan stood up, feeling exhausted. "I need time to think. I think we all need time." With that, Nathan moved out of their home and into a nearby hotel. Over the next few days, he kept thinking back to the conversation and pondering what had gone wrong with their marriage. He began to realize that the breakdown of his marriage did not happen overnight, but was the result of a long-term build-up. However, despite understanding the problems in his marriage, Nathan still cannot forgive Eliza for her betrayal. Thoughts of pain, anger, and revenge began to grow in his mind. Finally, he made a decision: divorce. Nathan sat in the parlor of his law office, arms crossed in his lap, his eyes staring vacantly at the white wall across the room. Sam, his longtime friend and attorney, was organizing his papers and getting ready to start their conversation. A heavy atmosphere filled the room, as if even the air had become sticky. "Nathan," Sam said softly, breaking the silence, "I know this is hard for you, but we need to talk about the divorce." Nathan's heart ached again at the word divorce. He took a deep breath and tried to keep his voice steady. "Okay, Sam, let's get started." Sam nodded and began to explain the divorce process and possible property division options. But Nathan just nodded mechanically, the words becoming a meaningless string of sounds in his ears. His thoughts drifted inexorably back to that agonizing night when his entire world came crashing down when he discovered Eliza's betrayal. For a few days after that, Nathan was like the walking dead. He moved out of their villa and into a nearby hotel. Every night, he poured himself a glass of whiskey before going to bed, hoping the alcohol would numb his nerves and take his mind off the painful images. But every time he closes his eyes, the scene of Eliza and Marcus in an intimate embrace resurfaces in his mind. Nathan used to think that time would heal all wounds. But as the days passed, he realized that the anger and pain in his heart, instead of diminishing, was intensifying. He began to think, why should he let the betrayer go all the way? Why do you have to suffer all this in silence? Nathan, are you listening?" Sam's voice brought Nathan back to reality. Nathan blinked and tried to focus. "Sorry, Sam. What did you just say?" Sam sighed, sympathy in his tone. "I'd say, considering your marital status and Eliza's behavior, you have an advantage in property division. But I suggest we adopt a relatively moderate strategy to avoid unnecessary strife." Nathan felt a sudden surge of anger. "Mild? Why did he stay mild after Eliza ruined their marriage and trampled on his feelings? No, Sam. Nathan's voice turned icy. I don't want to be gentle. I want her to pay. I want both her and that man to pay. Sam looked at Nathan in surprise. He had never seen his best friend so angry. Nathan, I understand how you feel, but revenge isn't the answer. It only makes things worse. But Nathan had made up his mind. There was a dangerous glint in his eyes. Sam, I want you to make the harshest offer you can to Eliza. I want her to end her relationship with Marcus, or I'll go public with their scandalous affair. Also, I'm suing Marcus and his company. I'm going to give them all a taste of betrayal. Sam tried to persuade, but Nathan interrupted. It's not just for myself, Sam. Think of our children. They have a right to know the truth and to know what kind of person their mother was. Nathan's voice trembled slightly as he spoke of his children. Telling his children the truth was one of the most agonizing decisions he'd ever had to make. He remembers the shocked and pained look on his daughter Lily's face when she heard the news, and remembers his son Ethan angrily smashing a vase in the living room. In that moment, Nathan realizes that Eliza's betrayal didn't just hurt him, it hurt the whole family. Sam looked at Nathan longingly and finally nodded slowly. Okay, Nathan, if that's really what you want, I'll do what you say. But remember, it's easy to lose yourself on the road to revenge. Nathan stood up and looked out the window. The sun was shining, people were coming and going in the streets, and life seemed to go on. But for Nathan, everything has changed. He's no longer the kind forgiving Nathan. All that was left in his heart now was pain and hatred. I know, Sam, Nathan said softly, but I've lost everything. What have I got to lose? Upon leaving Sam's office, Nathan felt an unprecedented surge of determination burning in his chest. The inner voice kept echoing. They had to pay. They had to experience the pain of betrayal. Nathan took a deep breath and turned on his cell phone. He flipped to private investigator Jake's number and hesitated for a second before pressing the dial button. When Jake picked up the phone, Nathan's voice was surprisingly calm. Jake, I need your help. The targets are Eliza Thompson and Marcus Peterson. I want to know everything about them. Every date, every eye contact, every physical touch. Whatever it takes. Jake was silent on the other end of the line for a moment, then said, Nathan, we've known each other for years. Are you sure you want to do this? This could change everything. Nathan closed his eyes as images of Eliza and Marcus in an intimate embrace came to mind. That piercing pain swept through again. I'm sure. He practically squeezed the words through his teeth, start moving. After hanging up, Nathan felt a wave of dizziness. He knew he was embarking on a path of no return, but there was no turning back. Next, he dialed his best friend Tom's number. Tom is a PR specialist at an ad agency and is well connected in the industry. Tom, I need your help. Nathan's voice was low and firm. I'm going to let the entire design community know about Eliza and Marcus. But it has to be done subtly, so it doesn't look like I'm behind it. Tom let out a long sigh after listening to Nathan. Nathan, man, have you really thought this through? It could ruin Eliza's career, even her life. Nathan felt a pang of heartache, but it was immediately replaced by anger. She destroyed my marriage and my family, Tom. It's what she deserves. Over the next few weeks, Nathan's plan for revenge runs like a precision machine. Every morning, he receives a detailed report from Jake. Photos, videos, call logs. All the evidence clearly shows Eliza and Marcus' inappropriate relationship. Nathan felt a sharp pang of heartache every time he opened these files. Watching Eliza give Marcus that sweet smile and listening to her speak to Marcus on the phone in a soft tone of voice. All of this sent a wave of vertigo and nausea through Nathan. There were several times when he almost deleted all the evidence and gave up on this crazy plan. But every time that thought comes up, the pain of that betrayal reasserts itself and pushes him on. Meanwhile, Tom began spreading rumors about Eliza in design circles. At first, it was just vague hints, such as Eliza has been seen having dinner with a mysterious man, and Eliza's recent designs seemed to be inspired by a particular friend. These seemingly innocuous gossips quickly spread through the industry, generating curiosity and speculation. Eliza began to notice the strange looks of those around her. Her coworkers suddenly stop talking when she walks into the office, and clients begin to doubt her professionalism. Every night, as Eliza lay alone in her bed, she felt an inexplicable fear creep into her mind. She knew something was happening, but couldn't pinpoint exactly what. Marcus is also feeling the pressure. His company began to be suspicious of his behavior, and some important clients began to cancel their cooperation. He tries to reach Eliza, but seems wary of being overheard on every call. Nathan stood by coldly and watched as Eliza and Marcus' world came crashing down. He should feel satisfaction and the thrill of revenge. But instead, all he felt was a deep emptiness and exhaustion. Finally, in the latest batch of photos Jake sends, Nathan sees a scene that breaks his heart. Eliza curled up on a park bench, crying alone. At that moment, Nathan felt a sharp pang of self-loathing. What the hell is he doing? Is this what he wanted? Nathan's plan for revenge plays out like a carefully choreographed symphony, with every note hitting Eliza's life at just the right time. However, just when he thought he was about to play his last movement, the unexpected happened. Eliza stood in front of her office window, her hands clasping a file. It was a report detailing Nathan's plans for revenge, gathered in secret by one of her loyal subordinates. Eliza's hands trembled slightly as tears slipped uncontrollably. Her eyes swept over every line in the document, and a wave of acidity flooded her heart. The private investigators stalking, the elaborate rumors, the step-by-step plot to dismantle her career. All of it was clearly presented to her. Eliza took a deep breath, trying to calm her inner turmoil. "Nathan," she murmured softly, her voice filled with mixed emotions. Anger, sadness, guilt, and a touch of unspeakable admiration. She had to admit that Nathan's plan was ingenious and efficient. And if it hadn't been for an insider's leak, she might never have known that he was behind it all. Eliza closed her eyes and thought back to the years she had spent with Nathan. There was a time when they were so in love that they thought they could spend their lives together. Now, however, they're the source of each other's greatest harm. She knew it was time to confront Nathan, not to accuse, but to confess, to apologize perhaps, for redemption. Nathan is sitting in his drawing room with a glass of whiskey in his hand. On the easel is an unfinished work showing the side of Eliza's face, but with the eye portion smudged with angry brushstrokes. Just then, the doorbell rang. He shuffled over to the door and froze the moment he opened it. Eliza was standing in the doorway, her eyes red and swollen, but her gaze determined. "We need to talk, Nathan." Eliza's voice was husky but calm. Nathan subconsciously tried to close the door, but Eliza's next words stopped him in his tracks. "I know everything you've done. Everything." Nathan felt a wave of vertigo as he took a step back and allowed Eliza to enter the house. The two sat face to face on the couch in the living room, tension and awkwardness filling the air. Eliza took a deep breath and was the first to break the silence. "Why did you do it, Nathan? Do you think this will make you feel better?" Nathan avoided her gaze, his fingers unconsciously rubbing the rim of his glass. "You betrayed me, Eliza. I just wanted you to have a taste of betrayal, too. I know I've made an unforgivable mistake." Eliza's voice quivered. "But is that your solution? An eye for an eye?" Nathan snapped his head up, a spark of anger in his eyes. "So tell me, what am I supposed to do? Pretend it never happened? Continue to live a false life?" Eliza looked at Nathan quietly, a deep apology in her eyes. "No, Nathan. We all know that's impossible. But revenge won't make you happy. It will only make you as pathetic as I am." Nathan felt a pang of heartache as he realized that Eliza was right. These past few weeks, he'd reveled in the thrill of revenge, but inside he'd grown empty. "I'm so sorry, Nathan," Eliza said softly, tears slipping down her face once again. "I apologize for my betrayal, for my lack of appreciation for our marriage. But please believe that I paid a far greater price than you can imagine." Nathan looked at Eliza and suddenly realized how tired and haggard she looked. A wave of complex emotions welled up in his heart, both nostalgia for the past and helplessness for the present. "How the hell did we get to this point, Eliza?" asked Nathan, exhaustion and confusion in his voice. Eliza reached out and gently covered Nathan's hand. "We've all made mistakes, Nathan. I betrayed you, and you chose revenge. But maybe it's time to let go of the past and move on." Nathan didn't draw his hand back, but he didn't respond to Eliza's touch either. They just sat in silence, each lost in their own thoughts. Finally, Nathan whispered, "I'm not stopping the divorce proceedings, Eliza. Our marriage is beyond repair." Eliza nodded, a flash of pain in her eyes, but quickly regained her composure. "I understand. I just wish we could have ended this on a better note. Not as haters, but as two people who once loved each other and are now choosing to let go." Nathan looked at Eliza and felt a sudden wave of relief. Though the pain was still there, the hate that had eaten away at his heart seemed to have dissipated. "I need time, Eliza," Nathan finally said. "Time to heal, time to forgive. Not just for you, but for myself." Eliza stood up with understanding and a hint of hope in her eyes. "I understand. Whatever you decide, I will respect it. Just remember, revenge doesn't bring true happiness. Forgiveness does." When Eliza left, Nathan felt a strange calm. He went to the window and looked out at the world. The sun is still shining and life goes on. He knew it was time to let go of the past and start a new journey. The next morning, Nathan stood at the gate at the airport, his ticket to Greece in his hand. This is no longer an escape trip, but an opportunity for self-redemption and a fresh start. At the last minute before boarding the plane, he called Sam. "Sam, move forward with the divorce proceedings, but let it be as peaceful as possible." The plane slowly lifts off, carrying Nathan into the unknown future. He didn't know what would await him, but he knew that whatever happened, he would face it with a stronger, more forgiving version of himself. The Greek sun was warm and bright, and Nathan stood on the balcony of his beachside hut, breathing deeply of the salty sea air. A full year has passed since he left Dallas. Throughout the year, he experienced pain, anger, and confusion, but eventually, he found inner peace. Nathan thought back to the days when he first arrived in Greece. At the time, he was filled with resentment toward Eliza and disappointment in his life. He often sat alone on the beach, looking out at the rough sea, like the emotions churning inside him. However, over time, the Greek sun seemed to slowly melt the ice in his heart. He began to pick up his brushes again and express his emotions in color. At first, his paintings were filled with darkness and anger, but gradually, bright colors began to appear on his canvases. On a quiet afternoon, Nathan meets Nikos, an old local fisherman. Nikos listened to Nathan's story, gently patted him on the shoulder and said, "Young man, life is like the ocean. Sometimes it's calm, sometimes it's choppy, but we're going to keep sailing anyway." The words touched Nathan deeply. He begins to reflect on his actions and think about the meaning of revenge. He realized that endless resentment and revenge would only lead him into deeper pain. Slowly, Nathan begins to try to forgive Eliza and, more importantly, himself. He understands that the breakdown of the marriage cannot be unilaterally blamed on Eliza. They're all responsible. They've all made mistakes. 6 months later, Nathan received an email from Sam informing him that the divorce was finalized. Oddly enough, Nathan didn't feel the relief or pleasure he expected. Instead, he felt a sense of peace. He replied to Sam's email with a specific instruction to pass on his best wishes to Eliza. Just when Nathan is ready to start a new life, he gets an unexpected phone call. "It's Eliza." "Nathan," Eliza's voice came through the mic a little hesitant. I just wanted to tell you that I'm sorry. For everything. I want you to be happy." Nathan was silent for a moment, then said softly, "Thank you, Eliza. I want you to be happy too." After hanging up, Nathan felt a sense of relief he'd never felt before. He realizes that true forgiveness is not just for others, but for himself. During his second year in Greece, Nathan met Sophia, a Greek-American painter. They met at a painting show and quickly became good friends. Sophia is gentle and understanding, and her presence allows Nathan to rediscover his faith in love. However, Nathan is in no hurry to start a new relationship. He knew that he could not give complete love to others until he had completely healed himself. After another 6 months, Nathan decided to return to Dallas. He wants to face the past and really let go of everything. Before he left, he finished a painting on the beach. In the painting, the rough sea gradually calms down, and the sunlight pierces through the dark clouds and illuminates the entire surface of the sea. He named the painting New Life. Upon returning to Dallas, Nathan reached out to Eliza and offered to meet. They met at a cafe, and the atmosphere was surprisingly calm. "You look well," Eliza smiled. "Greece seems to suit you." Nathan nodded. "Yes, it gave me a chance there to reconnect with myself." "Eliza, what I'm trying to say is, I forgive you, and forgive myself." Eliza's eyes flashed with surprise, followed by deep emotion. "Thank you, Nathan. It means a lot to me." They talked for a long time, looking back and looking forward. As they said their final goodbyes, the two embraced, no longer lovers, but sincere friends. After leaving the cafe, Nathan strolled through the streets of Dallas. He felt a sense of relief and freedom that he had never felt before. He understood that true forgiveness and letting go gave him the strength to start over. Back in Greece, Nathan began a new chapter in his life. He opened a small local gallery and taught some painting classes. Sophia became his right-hand man and an important person in his life. Although their relationship is still slowly developing, Nathan has learned to appreciate the moment and enjoy every moment. Sometimes Nathan thinks about Eliza and the past, but instead of bringing pain, those memories became a valuable lesson in his life. He understands that betrayal and hurt are inevitable in life, but that true courage lies in choosing to forgive and start over. Standing in the gallery, Nathan smiles as he looks at New Life hanging on the wall. He knows that no matter how life changes, as long as he keeps an open and tolerant heart, the sun will always penetrate the dark clouds and light up the road ahead. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's story. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you have a story to share about your own or someone else's experience, please feel free to contact me. Take care.